you.
Well, thank you. Can you dim the lights a little bit?
I will do so.
Okay, all right. Bring me back up to your computer too. So when you get a moment.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was the founding director of Eagle Bluff Environmental Learning Center, which is a residential learning center in Lanesboro. So there are 6 centers around the state: Deep Portage, Wolf Ridge, Long Lake, Audubon, Wolf Ridge, and Eagle Bluff. And we worked together on providing environmental education to probably grades 5 through 8 as our primary audience, and I did that for 40 years. My wife Mary is a food drying specialist. She's written 7 or 8 books on food drying and various other things, including logging on the North Shore. The last thing that we did that kind of got this all started into this whole process is we did a deep energy reduction retrofit on the residents at Eagle Bluff, and we reduced the energy consumption in the house by 78%. That's kind of embarrassing in the sense that we were wasting so much. So I have actually a text on this that I can send to you, Sue, that you can share, kind of like the old photo and the current remodeling photo, and then you can see all the different goals of super insulating the walls, replacing the windows with energy efficient windows, putting on solar thermal. There's a couple other photos. They're all the people that were involved. Budget. So we had, on the picture top right is that's solar hot water on the roof. And solar hot water at one point was considered to be low-hanging fruit. And I don't know if I'd recommend it based upon our personal experience to anybody. It's something that you always have motors going and pumping in. I would rather have photovoltaics, solar panels, than I would solar hot water. If anybody has solar hot water, forgive me. I don't mean to degrade it one way or the other. You can see we added 6 inches of insulation on the exterior of the building. So we did, it was a deep energy reduction retrofit, and I asked if there's any architects in this audience, and I wanted to know that we worked with an architect. We had a $250,000 budget, and we worked with an architect. And the architect came up with a remodeling process that we went out to bids, and the bids came back for $750,000 to do the remodeling. So that's my problem with architects, is sometimes they're not connected with financial reality. So then we went back to people that actually held hammers in their hands, the builders and people like that, and we came up with this super insulating the envelope. It's something that was done in Alaska as a way to insulate houses in Alaska, and it worked out really well. I'm also pleased to announce that my wife and I survived this remodeling process and did not get divorced. It's nip and tuck sometimes, and on this building, the house also, but we're still, I think, happily married. So this was our background. We remodeled the house, we reduced energy use by 78%. We had all this cadre of people that we were working with to do that. And then another couple spent 3 years and 3 different architects to design a passive house that they built that we helped out with. We had a couple of friends who were both engineers, and they designed their own home and built it. And it's a near passive, off the grid home also. So we have all these people that have been doing things around us for various different times that we've been consulting with in order to be able to do this. And this is a little promo item that was put together by Greenway Solar, talking about our all-electric solar shingle home. So this is a solar shingle. It's basically 15 by 45. It's made out of fiberglass. You'll see people are walking on it. You can pound on it, hail, whatever else. It's not a problem. There's supposed to be 3 clips on the bottom. That's why I had 2 of them got knocked off. These clips fit into on top. They're screwed onto the roof deck. It won't blow away. They're very durable. The electricians hook all these panels together and will allow your business. So you'll get that as we go through it. But this is what the shingles actually look like themselves. So I have a little video we're going to watch, and I'm going to stop, going through this. If you have any questions, just ask Joe or Mary to answer that, and Mary will chip in the back too as I go on.
Joe, question on your house, so this is a newer house,
Correct.
right? Brand new house.
Right.
On your original house that you're just talking about,
Right.
how long did it take to remodel that house?
Too long.
Okay.
I think originally they said they'd have it done in 6 months, and I think it was closer to 18.
Okay.
Mary, correct?
It was a long time.
Too long.
Okay.
Way, way too long.
Thank you.
6 months would have been fine, 18 was a stretch. So,
We built this house because Joe retired from Eagle Bluff as the director, and the house that we lived in was part of the organization. So when the new director came along, we had to exit that house and we moved into this one.
sorry. So this is the Riverview, this is your house.
My name is Mary Bell, and this is my husband, Joe Deden, and we are people that believe in sustainable living, and we wanted to build a house that was as environmentally correct as we possibly could.
The United Nations recommends, if you are building a home, there are 3 things you should consider. Having a local source of power, whether they be wind or solar, having a backup battery, and having a heat pump. Those are the 3 things you can do to address global climate change.
This house was designed by a committee with lots of good people with background and experience. We believe in Tesla's corporate vision of creating a more sustainable planet. We got a hold of Greenway Solar, a Tesla certified installer for the Midwest area. And then we worked with
So this is talking about Aurora software. And what I wanted to point out is that there are trees on the east side of the house, one straight away from the house, some spruce trees, and a big walnut tree on the west side. And based upon the software, it said, on either, as further east we went or to the west, it took our percentage of solar that we could capture down to 79%. But if we were right in the sweet spot, we could get 91%. So that's the value of positioning the house on the property if you have the luxury of doing that. And I'm sorry for stopping, but like I said, if there's anything you want to ask as we go along, let me know.
Aurora software to position the house on the site so we got maximum solar benefit. Between the roof and the garage are
There's the walnut tree in the west, and see how it's shading in the afternoon. So that's where 79 to 81%, 91%, the more we moved it this way, the more it minimized the impact of that walnut tree. Too far east, then we got some other trees. Too far to the north, it was on the neighbor's property.
But to be clear, you have the solar shingles on both sides of the house?
No,
Or just the...
only on the south
Just on
side.
the south side, okay.
So I mean, there's some stories here. Tesla normally requires that you put shingles all over their house. If you look at the average house, even in St. James, I mean, they have dormers and valleys and everything else. And we spent a lot of time designing a 2-pitched roof. Originally, we were going with a single pitch, just all south facing. But then in Minnesota, you have this big north wall with glass on it, and you lose all your heat out the glass. So we went with 2 pitches, and we had to convince Tesla to allow us to do that. So we had architects draw up the roofing with the connection saying, if Tesla can plan on landing people on Mars, surely they can figure out how to combine 2 flat surfaces underneath their ridge roof. And they agreed to do it. So we have metal to the north and shingles to the south.
Okay, just wasn't clear from...
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Joe, I have a question. So how much debate did you talk with Mary about possibly cutting down the walnut tree?
0.
0, okay. You didn't want to do that,
Oh,
okay.
it's beautiful.
And the next thought would be, the angle of your house would be probably different if we build a house, let's say in St. James. So that angle of the sun would be a different position, right?
You're in the same latitude.
Okay.
So I mean, the roof pitch is 40 degrees. It's a 10-12 roof, which is relatively steep, but that gives you your ideal year-round production in Minnesota.
Okay.
Right, so as you go further south, then it would be flatter. Further north, it gets to be steeper.
And the angle of the roof also is for snow removal.
Oh,
Because
yes.
the snow, with such a sharp roof,
Yes.
it will melt and,
And then we have no penetrations through the south roof. I mean, there's no bathroom vents that are piped out and they come out the north side, not the south side. So our roof was sacred. So we designed a house around a roof.
Sure.
in fact, we did not, did we have the land?
That's coming.
Okay.
The system generates 32 kilowatts of power. We have a SPAN smart electric panel. A smart panel is something that can be controlled remotely. It also allows us to monitor home usage. We have a car charger in our garage, and that is our #1 energy use. Then the heating system is second, water heater is third. My office with just the computer and printer is our 4th largest energy user in this home. So this is our Arctic air-to-water heat pump. It heats and cools the whole building. It's rated at 2.5 tons. This uses water to take either the heat or the cool just into the house, and water is a much more energy efficient transfer mechanism. Good down to 22 below. So the advantage of having airtight house is it takes less to heat it in the wintertime and it takes less to cool it in the summer. This is a Zender energy recovery ventilator. It's a Swiss system. These tubes in the walls, or you can see them overhead, go to the air handling vents in the building. The installation was flawless and went well. They have electricians that are busy hooking this all together, making sure that each shingle is running, and they also make sure that each run of shingles is hooked together in series and working.
So you can see they're walking on it.
Power comes down off the roof, and you can see these are labeled solar PV direct current circuit. So the direct current comes down into the inverters where it's converted to alternating current. It goes out into the gateway outside. The gateway then sends it back into the SPAN smart panel here, where it's used for the house, to the battery, or off to the grid. The backup battery is 13.5 kilowatts. In the summer, we've gone 3.5 days with no grid power. So we're charging our car, we're heating our house, we're having all the electric benefits.
And our system is making us money. We just simply decided to pay ahead. For us, it was how to live as environmentally correct as we possibly could, to eliminate fossil fuels as much as we could. We bought our future.
So we're going to
Joe?
yes.
Got a few questions. Okay. What is the life expectancy of those solar shingles?
Everything in the house, according to Mary and I, and our age, has a lifetime guarantee.
They say 50 years.
Well, in excess of 25, up to 50, so yes.
And then I was curious about the heat pump as well. You said it's rated for 22 below.
Correct.
How's your experience with that then? And do you have a secondary backup if it's 40 below, which happens, especially with wind chills? What do you?
We do, and I'll answer your
Great.
question as we go along. Good one. Not to be evasive, I've got a slide presentation on this.
Did you have to do extra insulation like you did in the previous one?
It is. So we have an R value of greater than 30 in the walls and greater than 70 in the ceiling. So depending on how you determine R value, it's somewhere like 22, 23 in the walls, and then we'll get this, it's all in the slide presentations.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that the panels only faces the south, you said?
Correct.
Why not the north part?
Because it's so steep,
So
the north
does it-
really gets
It
limited.
doesn't get
sun.
any, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How many square feet is your home?
1,640.
Basement?
Same, so 2 floors, 1,640. So this is what Mary was talking about, is that when we bought our car, Tesla car, we ordered in March of 2016 and we didn't get it till August in 2018. So we waited 28 months, 10 days and 4 hours to get our car. So we knew in working with Tesla, there was lead times involved in this. So when we found out that there was a solar shingle installer in Minnesota, we were thinking about building a house. And I basically told Mary that if we want to put shingles on later this fall, we've got to get them ordered now. So on the 15th of January, we ordered the shingles, but we did not have a lot, or we did not have a home design. So it was really the cart in front of the horse, and a lot of our neighbors thought we were crazier than they thought we were. So we used Google Earth to identify 3 sites in Lanesboro that had southern exposure. We talked to them all. We ended up convincing the landowner to sell us the most favorable site. And then we worked with a whole group of people to design this house around a single flat south-facing roof. And then so this is May, this is like a month from now or a couple weeks from now, we went out to secure builders. Builders are already committed for the summer by May. So the Amish builder wanted to do with the solar shingles, and they wanted to know about the batteries. So the Amish builder decided he would build it. The HVAC guy, so heat pumps, especially air-to-water heat pumps, are cutting edge. Everyone else is air-to-air, Hitachi, Mitsubishi, whatever you have for your air conditioners. No one else is air-to-water, and no one else wants to do it, but we got the most cutting-edge guy in the county, and went up, talked to him, he goes, I'm busy. And I said, well, too bad we're doing this air-to-water heat pump, because I want to do it. We went to the electrician, it was the same thing. I'm sorry, I got on my docket's full for the summer where we're doing solar shingles. You're the best in the county, we were hoping you do it. He goes, I want to do it. So, I mean, we got our contractors all kind of in line, and then we were off to the races. So the building site is 4 feet down to bedrock. And bedrock, sandstone with a calcite quartzite is very hard. It's very expensive to go any deeper, so our house is a little higher than we ideally have had it. So we have ICFs, interconnecting concrete forms. So you have insulation on the outside, and you have insulation on the inside, and concrete in the middle. So it keeps cold out and heat in. So that's the advantages of ICFs. We have 2 heating zones in the floor. We have 4 inches of insulation underneath the heating zone, so we didn't want the heat to go down. We learned that in one other building project where we didn't insulate underneath it, and a lot of heat gets sucked down in good old Mother Earth. And then this is kind of what the basement looked like finished. We use various different construction materials. So this is a warm board. It's a oriented strand board, but it has stamped aluminum into the dated grooves, so that the tubing, in-floor heating fits into the tubes, but then the aluminum transfers the heat out. So it's just not one where the tube is, it's over the whole base where the heat spreads out and dissipates. We use zip sheathing. You'll see this around mostly on commercial construction, but it's 3 things in one. It's a water impervious membrane, it's structural, it's wood, it's orientated strand board, and there's insulation behind it. So normally you put on visqueen, the white stuff they seal the house with, then they put insulation over it, and then they put the siding over that. This is 3 products into one, and then you get to tape the seams. So that pretty much made the house airtight to start with by most current standards. I grew up on a farm in Goodhue County, Red Wing, We tore down the barn about a dozen years ago and we saved the siding and some of the beams. So we repurposed the siding for use in the breezeway, in the garage, in our east deck. And on the right photo, there's a artist rendering of the barn. The air handling system, so this goes back to, there's your air to water heat pump. So it's using water to take the heat from the heat pump outside, inside into the in-floor heating system. It has some fairly complex controllers on it that depend on the inside and outside temperature of how hot the water is kept. It's not a constant, and it does work down to 22 below, and I'm going to get back to your question on answering that yet in a little bit. So there's the controllers, and there's actually a third controller that's for the summer, and it has to do with relative humidity in the house. So this is the ERV, the Energy Handling System. It's Swiss. And the thing I like about it is that it has replaceable filters here and there. These you replace quarterly, those you replace annually. The upper black ones are activated charcoal filters, and the yellow ones on top are HEPA filters. So you know all that nice little Canadian smog that we were breathing last summer with the fires? The HEPA filters take that out. The house that we renovated in Eagle Bluff in 2011 had one big system that the filters were never changed since 2011. Supposedly you could wash them out, but it really didn't do that much good. So having changeable filters is really good. And then the ductwork fits right into the wall. So it kind of looks like blower or dryer ductwork, you know, the little slinky sort of things that you get for clothes dryer. It just goes right in the wall. It's very quiet. It's really nice. I'm losing my hearing. It's very quiet. I find it quiet. This is our whole house dehumidifier. So it works to pull the extra humidity out in the summertime because we don't have an air conditioner that's doing that. We have in-floor heating, but we also have in-floor cooling. So in-floor cooling we like for 2 old people, but if you have a group of people there, it's not adequate. It gets overwhelmed. So that's where we need the whole house dehumidifier for. This is the SPAN Smart Electric Panel. So you can control things remotely. And I was down visiting my brother and my niece in Texas in March, and I was showing my niece how you could turn these things on and off remotely. And I turned off the water heater when I was in Texas, and when I came home, instead of being in hot water, it was in cold water because Mary wanted to take a bath and there was no hot water. So I mean, you can do those things remotely. It's really kind of cool. So you asked about the backup system. So we have a backup electric boiler, and so the heat pump is supposed to be primary and the backup boiler is supposed to be secondary, but here we are in mid-March. The system has just been installed and the backup boiler is using 66% of our power and the primary heat source is using 8%. Without this, we would have never known that, and you'll see our costs in March are much higher than they should have been just because the backup boiler was our primary source like these instead of the primary. So that was one of the advantages of having circuits that you can track online and find out how much power are they using. And it's about a $2,000 upcharge to go from a standard electric panel to a SPAN panel remotely. So for $2,000, we saved that in the first couple of months.
So how did you, I mean, why was that backup boiler running so much? Did you figure that out?
It's been one of the frustrations of going back to the controls. So we had control issues of just basically fine tuning of how much outside air was coming in and blending it. And also, so the Swiss ERV, Energy Recovery Ventilator, on the continent in Switzerland, humidity is low in the summer and it's high in the winter when it's cloudy and rainy. So they were bringing in lots of outside air in the summer and little in the winter. We wanted it just reversed. So they sent me information how to do that, 23 pages of read and click and do yourself. I mean, so it's been a painful process in some senses, but once we've got it up and running, it's working reasonably well. But so that's why to get this all tuned at a time it took some time to do it. So this is kind of like the fun stuff. And we can go back to this data as we go along. So this is how much solar did we generate in 2023, all right? And this does not include January. So you can see January's missing here, there. So we produced February through, well, the end of the year, December, we don't see the last couple things, 42,000 kilowatt hours. So in Lanesboro, we're paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour. That we bought $8,600 or $860 from the grid, and we sold back $2,700 to the grid. Our house used 23,000 kilowatt hours. So that's house and charging our car. So Mary and I used to own a Subaru Outback and a Prius, and our monthly gas bill was about $400. Now our bill for electricity in the house, charging the house and heating the house is $200. So we're heating our house and we're charging our car for half the price we used to pay just for gasoline for our cars. This far right one on the backup is that when the power goes off, you get a notice on your phone saying the power's off, and you have options. So the must-have circuits are, you can see the heating, controls, the refrigerator, and basically kitchen stuff. And if the nice-to-have circuits, and we wanted to heat the whole house and charge our car, we'd have 2 hours. If we're just doing the primary stuff, we have 8 hours. Remotely, if we're here in St. James and the power goes off, we could go turn off the kitchen sink, the living room lights, and the controls. And we could do that all remotely and cut our power usage back depending on how much is in the battery. So we had the power go off in April this year at 6:30 in the morning. And we got a message saying our battery's at 13%. And using the must-have sort of circuits, it had like 4 hours we could go. It was off for 26 minutes, and when the power came back on, our battery level had gone up to 18%. So it powered the house and went from 13% to 18% while it was powering the house. So, I mean, backup battery is really nice for that. There's more information about backup batteries we'll get into. So this is a energy saving windows. They're Canadian windows, so they open in and they open up. This used to be a Wisconsin window, but they moved to Canada. They have a fiberglass frame, not PVC, so they won't yellow with time. And they're rated at an R value of something like 4. Normally windows like 1 or 2, so that it has a high R value. We did a blower door test to find out how airtight our building was, and basically it's 0.83. If we would have made it to 0.86, we would have been a passive house. So it's a very energy efficient, and it's so airtight that we have a carbon dioxide sensor. So if people come to visit more than 2 of us, we plug this thing in, and when it goes over 1,000, it starts blinking red, and then we have to open a window.
Close it or quit breathing.
Yeah. Well, about 2,000, then you basically pass out. So this is the solar shingles going on. Greenway Solar is the solar shingle installer in Minnesota. They're very good to work with. Excellent people. I highly recommend them. The trick here is they have this movable template that they use to set up the first row. Kind of like anything in carpentry. You got to get the first row set up. After that, it's just slap them in place. And then there's a video, and you already saw that, so I'm just going to skip that. So this is the power wall, 13.5 kilowatts. You know, it looks that big. I mean, it's not that big. It has to be in a heated space. You can't keep it out where it's going to freeze. So we have it in our basement. This is what I learned in this whole process is we use the power wall every night to offset grid power. So we have it set, we'll take the power down, we have it set at 7% now, there it's 10. So when the sun goes down, we use the power wall until it gets down to 10%. That's when I said, if we turned off our water heater, we could make it through the night without using any grid power. So you can adjust that, and it has a mode that if there's a NOAA weather alert, a storm alert that comes up, the power wall automatically charges itself to 100% and holds 100% until the storm alert passes. So you always got your battery at 100% if you need it during a storm situation, regardless of what you have set up. So this is where you can see From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., it never got down to that 10%. So that is during the summer when we made it through the whole night using only our own generated power, no grid power. So I want to go back on this one. So there are the garage is the bottom. There are 4 different runs of shingles on the garage, and there are 6 ones on the upper one that they hook together in series. And this is the little schematic of, there's 28 shingles in this one, and 33 in that, and 33 in that. They come down into 4 different inverters in the basement. We saw those. Goes off to a generation panel, a disconnect, production panel. Goes over into the gateway. So the gateway is the smart thing. This is all outside. And the gateway either sends it to the power wall in the house for battery storage, to the smart panel for use in the house, or off to the grid. So it's kind of depending on where do you need power and what's available. And that's all done remotely. Just the back. So there are, you can see the shutoff. There's a shutoff outside. So if you have electrical fire in the house, the fire department has been out, found out where the shutoffs are. They can turn everything off on the switches on top. Everything is well labeled. You see there's a little diagram in the house for a production meter and the shutoffs. So everything is, if anybody doesn't know what's happening, they can come out, shut things off automatically if we're gone. And then there's lots and lots of information that's available. So the energy app is the one on the left, and you can see there's energy and impact, and I'll show you the energy stuff. This is the impact showing on the day that we're doing this. We've generated 93% of our own power, and we made $19. And then these are the other settings. So the power wall is at 90%. You can, if you're charging your car, you can set it when you're charging. So if you have peak rates, you can set so you don't charge during peak rates or off times. Put in your utility rate. Everything else is hooked up. So we're going to go through, I'm just going to load these up. So when you're looking at this, this code goes across the bottom. Blue is always the house. Gold is solar, green is the power wall, and gray is the grid. So here we are, what's circled up on top. Blue is the house. We used 87 kilowatts that day. Then we got 64 from solar, 13 from the power wall, and 9 from the grid. And you can see all these nice little spikes. So this is probably either water heater or heat pump coming on. This is probably us charging the car. This is actually a nice shape of what you want to see for electricity generated. 22nd of June, the longest day, 200 kilowatts hours. So green is going to the battery, blue is going towards the house, and gray is going towards the grid. The battery, we did not make it through the night here. And then this is how much we sent to the grid. That we got 9 from the grid. We sold 122, so our net usage was 113 kilowatt hours. So that information is available on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and annual basis. So you can find out real easily how your system is doing. And this is peak generation day. So look at solar production here of 234 kilowatt hours. Just beautiful what you want to see. And this was May 2nd. So I mean, June 22nd is the longest day of the year. If we had something like this in June 22nd, we probably would have done about 250 kilowatt hours during the course of the day. Once again, we didn't make it through the night. Probably doing clothes washing here, charging car there. So you can see the various different spikes that happen. And this is a dismal, cloudy day. And so look at the energy usage, it's spiking up and down, and we generated on the second slide from the left 42 kilowatt hours from the solar, and we ended up on the net usage on the right here that we got 10 from the grid, we put 9 to the grid, so our net usage for the day was 1 kilowatt hour. I would say in January and December it was more dismal than this. I have to refine my definition of what is a dismal day. And then this is the water heater turned off at night. And all you can see is on the third one, the green stays across from the bottom. This is monthly data. Remember I talked about the problem with the backup generator in March? So hurry in the month of March, in April, May, we're getting up to 90% of our power generated solar-wise. And just because of the backup battery, or the backup generator taking all the power, we only generated 44% in the month of March. So you kind of see the results of that over time. And as Mary pointed out, the steepness of the roof allows the snow to shed fairly easily. So this was an 8-inch snow at 10 o'clock in the morning, taken afterwards. And because it's black, I mean, it warms up and slides right off. So you want to get Mary or my goat, ask us what the return on our investment is. And I don't mind that. I mean, it's a reasonable question. And it's, you know, we always kind of look at what's a return on investment on your car or your boat or any of our other little trinkets that we have. We're talking about the Climate Action Committee. What's the return on investment in a power outage in your town? Or temperatures that are too hot to work on, or droughts, or high food costs, climate refugees, all those things that we don't take those things into consideration. But if we're looking at in 2022, when we put in our solar system, the average cost in the United States to put in solar was somewhere between $2 and $4 a kilowatt. Our system cost us $2.66. So it's kind of like right down the middle in order to be able to do this. So we installed it, was good. And this is a little note that we put in, is that on each roof truss, down to the stud wall, we have a hurricane tie down, the most little metal strap that fastens to the roof truss and comes down to the 2x4 stud wall and fastens to the stud wall. So it basically helps hold your roof on in case of tornadoes or strong flat-lying winds. So we kind of designed our house to handle, you know, inclement weather. We have a rain garden, so this is a rain garden. It takes all the water off the roofs and the south side of the house, and that's what it looked like when it was built. And then we're planting pollinator gardens. That's here at Meadowlark. So we're doing shortgrass pollinators on about 2 acres around the house, and kind of what it looked like before. These are all the people that helped us with our process, and I sent Sue a copy of this. And the ones that I thought you would find interesting are something like infrared heating. This is the warm board, zip sheathing. The windows, I would highly recommend the windows. Screen doors are hard to find. HVAC, you have to do that locally. This is under ERD. This is the heat pump, and everything else you can find probably locally using local vendors. But those are people that we thought were interesting to share. And then this kind of goes back to what I said, is we had this cadre of friends and professional builders and workers that helped us design the whole house. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I have a couple of discussion items yet, and then and are there any questions while I have this up, if we want to go back and look at anything? Okay.
Joe?
Yes.
Joe, can you talk about the net metering law? Were you able to work with your local electricity provider and get money back for each of the kilowatt hours that you sent back to the grid, and pricing and so forth?
Good.
And was that difficult?
How do I blow this up? So make this, can I enlarge this?
I think there's 100% up there. But yeah.
This one?
No, there's in the address bar, there's a magnifying glass. So, nope, to the left of where you are. Up where the web address is, https://docs. Okay, to the right of that, there's a magnifying glass.
Right.
And you can click that and you should be able to pump it up.
Okay. So, back to your question, and it's somewhat, I was trying to get this so we can see it. So Dairyland Power is our generation power cooperative out of southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, northeast Iowa. They sell power to My Energy, who then sells power to Lanesboro Public Utilities. You can see My Energy just adopted a resolution of that. They are willing to put in solar systems that are 105 to 110% of your anticipated use of your expansion. And they're doing that because people are putting in large-scale solar systems on a rural network that only has so much room in the pipeline, so to speak. And instead of having one big pipeline and everyone else say, I can't put in solar on my house, they want everyone to have solar on their house in order to be able to do that. So that's their thinking on a rural cooperative, 105 to 110%, and it's net metering. Right, so we pay 10 cents a kilowatt hour and we get paid 10 cents a kilowatt hour, one way or the other. Now, in talking to Gateway Solar, Xcel Energy in the cities, this little paragraph here is looking at, they figure it's cheaper to help people buy battery systems and to put it in their homes, because then they can use the battery like our particular system. When the power goes off, it powers your house and maybe some of your neighbor's house. Okay? So it's cheaper to do batteries than it is to do peaking plants somewhere and then have to pump it all the way around the state in order to get into these urban areas. So they're, from what I heard, they're willing to pay up to 50% of the cost of a battery if you're willing to commit a major percent of your battery storage to peak alert time periods. So that's a dance that's being done. But so if you're looking at climate smart in here in St. James, I would say use that as a model. That the more you're willing to put into, give back to the system, the more you get as a cost sharing rate to put your battery in. But I think it's super cool. That if we come down here, third paragraph on the Powerwall backup is 13.5 kilowatts. Our car has a 75 kilowatt system, 5 times that. So the next important thing is vehicle to grid, or excuse me, vehicle to home, and then the extension of that is.
Do you have that installed at your home?
Well, yes and no. It's not available yet, so we can't. But we can, if we can send it one way, we can probably send it back to the other way. But if you're looking at citywide ordinances of new builds in town or remodels, to have it so you can do vehicle to home for certain, and then vehicle to grid is also something you want to be able to look at it. So let's look at the F-150 Lightning pickup truck is 100 kilowatts, and the Cybertruck is 100 kilowatts. 100 kilowatts is a lot of power. So you could have that going into your home, but you could also have it going into St. James's grid, and the pickups or your vehicles could charge your town. The other thing is that they're mobile. So when we came over, we drove our electric car, we went to Sherburne, and we charged a car in Sherburne coming up here. If you're out of power in St. James and the power's still off, drive to Sherburne, charge your car, your truck, and come back and power up your house. I mean, it's a mobile battery system, so vehicle to home and vehicle to grid. Buzzwords you need to know, you need to get St. James ready for that. That's the key one. I talked to Tim Penny about that. I mean, I said that's the one message I want people to understand is vehicle to home is going to be the important thing. Because you got 5 times the battery sitting there, that would be about $65,000, $70,000 worth of batteries that you'd have to have sitting in your basement that's sitting in your car that cost you $30,000.
Just a comment related to putting electricity into the grid. Here in St. James, our rates are really weird. The general electrical rate in St. James is much lower than average, but the rate that you get for any produced electricity is, what is it, like 6 cents less per kilowatt hour than what you pay when you
No
buy
net
one.
metering?
No, it's
You
net
can net
metering.
meter, but then what your
But
payback
the
is.
rates
So
are different.
yeah, so the
we
pay
lose money.
yeah, the
on
payout
ours.
rate is 9.8 cents. So you
Yeah.
said you pay 10.
Yeah.
We pay 9.8
Okay.
for electricity. So our electricity is a little cheaper than yours.
Okay.
Your pay-in rate from the grid to you is also 10 cents.
Yeah.
Ours is 1.9.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So when we
Any
so in a month
excess we make that
yeah, so like
barely helps.
in a month where we're even, because we're net metered, it costs us nothing, right? In a month where we pay out, let's say you pay 100 kilowatt hours, it costs you $10. You use 100 kilowatt hours, it costs you $10. if you make 100 kilowatt hours instead of cost, you only gain $2.
Yeah.
So it's not, in St. James, it's not one, now that's partly because St. James is on the river cooperative that uses mostly, I mean, our energy is like 90-something% renewable in St. James anyway, because it's produced by hydro.
Yeah.
But, so it's not,
But anyway,
But
it's a structural
anyways-
issue, if you want to incentivize more people to do
Yes.
solar and to do batteries and putting things into the grid, those rates need to be better, because right now it's very ridiculous.
yeah, you,
Try to
For us.
sell it back.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well,
it's nice to offset your costs, but you know, January in Minnesota, you can't.
right,
You have to have a tremendous amount of solar
Right.
because too many days are just cloudy.
right, Mary.
From my perspective, the electric companies are not that enthusiastic about people generating their own electricity, because they're afraid they're gonna lose money, and they're afraid they're gonna lose,
Yeah.
customers, et cetera. And so they've imposed this rule of 105 or 110%. Whereas where we live, there's maybe, let's say there's 100 houses in our town. Maybe 20 or 25 of them, max, could have solar panels on them. So the electricity that we're producing now is also for our neighbors. So I think it's a really short-sighted policy that they have, because that is saying everybody can only have do 105%.
But this is rural cooperative, they're not.
Well, I'm just saying as far as policy and electric companies.
Well, especially when you look at like the aging electric grid, I've seen a million news stories about that recently, that the electric grid is getting old, and as we incentivize further electric car use, 2/3 of your power is you're charging your car.
Yeah.
Well, if you put one of those, just one, in every home, the electric usage would shoot up so dramatically in a town like this, you'd have to find new sources of power. So to me, it is extremely short-sighted to not try to incentivize people to produce more, but that's.
Well, it takes, who we elect and what issues we think are important.
Actually, there was
Conversation and learning, education.
Yes.
there was an article that I read that electric vehicles are actually enhancing the grid because you're using power on off-peak times. That's what people are trying to do, is charge off-peak. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how this all plays out.
Joe?
So Joe, this agreement or policy
Yep.
with this company was established after your house was built, correct?
And during the time,
So you're way over 110%.
oh yeah,
Right?
we're almost 200%.
Exactly. Wow.
We got great.
Glory for you. Good for you.
Well, yes and no, so we're, as Mary pointed out, we're in an urban setting, so we're not in My Energy's purvey. We're in
Oh, I see.
Lanesboro Public Utilities purvey, which is an urban setting. So there's a difference there.
So this wouldn't pertain to you or your neighbor?
Correct,
Okay. I got it.
correct. So, yeah,
But really, it really is the haves and the have-nots. Don't you see? There's difference in St. James. They only get what, 1.5 cents?
2 cents.
2 cents? That's ridiculous. It should be all across the board the same, whatever they are paying for. That was the net metering law
Yeah.
when it was established. Whatever you pay for, you get back. Exactly that same figure.
so from my understanding, the rub in Minnesota is that community solar gardens or large-scale solar is taking up the MISO grid and preventing small mom and pops from doing solar. So that's why they came up with this 105 to 110 sort of situation. So there's a lot of work to be done here.
Sure.
The other interesting thing is that if you, the top paragraph up here, there's a National Solar Home Tour, and you go look at the solar homes, and most of the homes are 10 to 15 kilowatts. I would guess that yours is somewhere around 10?
Yeah, it's,
12, yeah, okay.
14.
Right in,
something.
but you're looking at a 310 roof pitch, which is relatively flat, so it's the steepness of our roof which gave us the advantage, and then the size of the roof. And
we
then
have a
come-
little bit of shade on ours too.
So,
Our house is like an L and it's on the south-facing short side.
I want to hats off to Mary here and kudos on. She basically did the whole inside of the house of reuse, refurnish, recycle, and did a wonderful job on the interior of the house. You kind of saw of the barn siding. We talked a little bit about the lead times and while we get it, and then we have a little bone to pick with the city of Lanesboro. I don't know how St. James city government is, but I would say Lanesboro city government is not seen as being overly supportive of new housing being built. There is a 125 unit development that's been installed and another 10 to 12 house unit that's been installed in Lanesboro. So there's some issues that we have to work through in Lanesboro, and I'm sure everyone in their own community has items like that to do. And then on our video, we say we try to be environmentally correct as possible, and we put that on the web, and we've been roasted a little bit as saying that some of the materials that we use are not most environmentally sensitive that you possibly could. But our criteria was we wanted something that was lifetime guarantee, that had low incidences of repair. So we have metal siding and metal shingles where we could have asbestos, or we could have hardy board, cement fiber board or something like that. But the metal siding just gives us a lot more durability and low maintenance, and we wanted to lifetime guarantee to make it to the finish line here. Well, Bill, what did I forget? What would you add?
Oh, what did you forget? I don't know. I don't think I forgot anything.
So-
Well, the thing is that what we learned from redoing the Eagle Bluff residence is that once it was done, it's such a nice feeling to live in a place where you feel balanced, you know? I mean, we talk about how much electricity we use, as some people would check on the stock market every day, you know? And so we're aware of how much our lives are dependent on electricity, and that now we have some control over that. And there's a nice feeling living. You know, we get plastic and we buy some of the wrong stuff. I mean, you know, we're not there where we could be, perhaps more attention. But the quality of life is that we can live with less, and the idea of trying to be environmentally correct, being responsible for our use of the resources that are available to us. That's a really nice feeling, you know? And people, when they come into our house, they go, oh, this is so nice. And it really is a very small house. It's not, I mean, it's very...
1640.
It's not very big, and yet it feels very spacious and very welcoming.
One of the things just a comment, yeah. When you're putting in a new system like this, you said the school has a new system? This little right up here is production and consumption. And our production was so high the first month when the city utility reader read it, he figured it was impossible for us to be generating that much, and he switched it. So whoever on your system and on the school system, I mean, after a while you figure out they ought to catch that, but that, like, I was just kind of going like, that they're charging us for what we sold. And then the other thing is that in Lanesboro, it's a new home, and we're trying to get seeding done, our prairie established and water trees, and 1,000 gallons a month is what we've historically been using here now. And in the summer we use more, and the reading was so high in May they figured it had to be wrong. So then they delayed the rating until June, and in June we're 17,000 gallons, which is like the highest rate that you can pay for water. So then we got socked to us in June versus having it spread over 2 months. So not always the most user-friendly interpretation of data. And then I just thought you might find this interesting. So we're using on an average in a month 2,250 kilowatt hours. Our car is using 450, so it's basically costing us $45 in order to charge our car in our home over the course of a month, and then the house is using $173 or $174. So that the car charging is On our electric car, we charge probably 95% of the time at home.
Did you guys have any issues, and I'm sure that would be also something that we could talk about, is the rebates from the, many companies? Did you guys had any issues with that? Doing all this, environmental safety? Because I know there are so many rebates out there.
Yeah.
Which I do like that because, you encourage people to be more conscious of what you're doing, But did you guys had any issues with any of that?
So, we bought most of our lighting ourselves, and we bought it piecemeal here and piecemeal there, and I'm sorry, I kept track of some of the receipts, but not all of those receipts, so we never got rebates on our lighting. We have the solar system, there's a 30% federal tax credit, bingo.
Yes.
We've taken advantage of that the last 2 years. I mean, that's a big, and that's easy. And if you're looking at low-income energy efficiency, there are rebates for low-income individuals on that in order to be able to get that. So you need to be familiar with that, but so you can get a rebate on your induction stove, on the heat pump. So depending on the size, as time goes along, but you just have to keep your receipts. So it's not that complex. The federal one is easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is Greenway Solar close, or where are they based
They're
out
out of
of?
the cities.
Out of the cities, okay.
And they basically handle Minnesota and I think western Wisconsin and northeast Iowa. So it's a multi-state, bigger service here that they work with. Good people to work with, I highly recommend it.
And this wasn't the first Tesla panels they have installed?
One of the earliest.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah, it was.
cool. So your house is probably being promoted by their company, I would think?
Yeah, so if you go to their
Website.
website, if you go to their website and their blog on the bottom has that little video we
Sure.
played at the start, is they put that together.
Okay, cool.
So we like working with them.
Good for you.
Well, one of the reasons that they liked us is that we're more, we're not super wealthy, we're not building a 9,000 square foot house, we're trying to build it with the idea of sustainability instead of being, fancy. So and we're old, most people at our age, they're moving into a smaller house, or they're not building something that is, of this type, so they thought that was kind of an interesting story. And, I think that's good that people our age can have these as options as well.
And if you're ever in Lanesboro, stop by.
Oh, please.
Come visit. So any other questions? Just kind of, there's a lot of data there, but it's out there and it's saying good things from my interpretation. Cool, well, thank you.
So thank you to Joe and Mary for taking the trip in your Tesla to visit us. And feel free to have a treat or some water. Joe and Mary